Shalom, I'm Rabbi Stephen Sachs. Certainly, liberals identify with Shifra and Puach. These two courageous midwives defy the Pharaoh's order to kill the Hebrew babies. They protect the weak, the vulnerable. You expect the same liberals to identify with the state of Israel. After all, Israel is a small democracy surrounded by millions upon millions of people who want to destroy her. But yet, Peter Bernard, in his New York Review of Books essay in June, explains that many American Jews have disengaged from the state of Israel because of the establishment's insistence that they drop their liberalism at Zionism's door in order to support Israel. Wait a minute. Shouldn't supporting Israel be an affirmation of liberal values? Go to the central bus stop at Tel Aviv and what will you see? You will see a clinic providing free treatment to immigrants from Africa, legal as well as illegal immigrants. Israel's Save the Heart Foundation gives free cardiac care, world-class cardiac care, to Arab kids. And Israel has absorbed hundreds of thousands of Jews expelled from Arab countries. Now let me preach to the choir for a minute. As many of you know, Israel is the only country in the region in which you could criticize the government. You don't have to worry about being thrown into jail. Only country in the region in which a same-sex couple could walk hand in hand down the street, doesn't have to worry about being beaten up. Only country in the region where women are not subservient to men. Saying, okay, good points, but what about the oppressed Israeli Arabs? Well, the oppressed Israeli Arabs have one of the highest standards of living in the Arab world. And the dirty little secret is, if you ask them whose sovereignty they'd rather remain under, they'll tell you, the Israelis. They have freedom of religion, serve in the Knesset, and an Arab Israeli serves on the Supreme Court. Additionally, they have equal rights. And Israel has engaged in many peace attempts. The pre-state Zionist leadership was willing to accept the partition of Palestine. It was the Arabs who rejected and launched a war trying to kill Israel in our infancy. Israel has unilaterally withdrawn from Lebanon, Gaza, only to get more missiles in return, made many peace overtures which have been rejected, has tried to build improved housing in Gaza for Palestinians. And it was the Arab countries who ran to the United Nations stopping Israel, saying, we don't want the Palestinians to get too comfortable. Apparently, the image of the suffering Palestinian is more important than letting Israel provide real quality of life improvements for the Palestinians. As early as 1958, Ralph Garraway of UNRWA said, very bluntly, Palestinians don't care, the Arabs don't care if the Palestinians live or die. They want to use them as pawns, political weapons against Israel. In fact, to this day, Jordan is the only Arab country which allows Palestinians to hold citizenship. And Lebanon bars Palestinians from over 70 trades and professions. But now you're saying to yourself, okay, interesting points, but what about the settlements, Israel's provocative, illegal settlements? Well, let's keep in mind that territory was conquered in 1967 during a defensive war, and it is far from clear that these settlements are illegal. Regardless, Israel has shown that it's willing to dismantle settlements in return for true peace. There must be another reason American Jews are disengaging from Israel. Gary Rosenblatt of the New York Jewish Week hits it on the head. Ignorance, plain and simple. Many Jews do not know of the facts I just mentioned and simply get their news from the mainstream media, which tends to be biased against Israel, often portrays Israel as an aggressor and an oppressor, and they just take it at face value. Furthermore, Israel's enemies have done a wonderful job of turning Zionism into a dirty word. On college campuses, professors often equate Zionism to racism, to apartheid, challenge Israel's right to exist, say that the Jews are Western crusaders who came over and illegally occupied Israel. In fact, on Brooklyn College, you'll see Palestinian students who have set up mock checkpoints on campus, just as the Israelis have checkpoints in the West Bank. Well, I wonder why the Israelis would have checkpoints in the West Bank. They must really like sending their 18-year-old sons to man those checkpoints. Can't have anything to do with the fact that the Palestinians are constantly trying to send suicide bombers into Israel, even send them in ambulances, having women dress up, pretending to be pregnant with bombs under their shirt. Maybe the Israeli students should go onto campus and have mock suicide bombings, so people see how it's like to live in Israel under this constant threat. Ridiculous. There's another reason for disengagement as well. And that is, us American Jews have been treated so well here in America that we forget that real evil exists to this very day in much of the rest of the world. Evil and anti-Semitism. 2004, Ariel Sharon had a call upon the Jews of France to make immediate aliyah because the French police had failed to protect them while Muslims rioted. Israel is regularly condemned at the UN by the worst human rights abusers, and Arab medias and governments are full of anti-Semitism, constantly encouraging violence against Jews. And then of course there's Iran, that is marching towards nuclear weapons, while it declares quite publicly and openly its intent to wipe Israel off the face of the map. My friends, it's time for us to wake up. We Jewish people have lost 2 states during the First Temple period and the Second Temple period, and we could lose another. There is no guarantee that our modern state of Israel will survive. We have to ensure it. Let me ask you a question. If you had a child, it's a good kid, but not perfect. Nobody's perfect. Good kid who unfortunately had a life-threatening disease, would you spend all your time and effort nitpicking at those minor faults? Or would you spend your time and energy trying to save your child? It's a no-brainer. You spend your time and energy trying to save your child. The state of Israel is that child. Has not known a day of peace since its creation. So now some of you are saying to yourselves, okay, Rabbi, interesting points. But the bottom line, this is the same old right-wing advocacy, pro-Israel advocacy of my grandparents. I want to look at Israel through a new prism, a prism that allows me to criticize Israel when necessary. Well, the fact of the matter is, my friends, we American Jews have chosen to remain in America. We could have made Aliyah, moved to Israel, but we haven't. Now, it is our responsibility to support the team in the field, even if we don't like every single call the coach makes. And Israel does need our support. Israel is dependent on American support. We should be out in front championing Israel's cause, but we appear to be blowing the opportunity. The Jewish Week recently reported a new consensus is emerging on Israel education, calling for a more critical approach towards teaching about the Jewish state. Up to date, despite tension between Washington and Jerusalem, the American public has been very supportive of Israel. Can we really expect Americans to remain supportive of Israel if they see American Jews constantly criticizing Israel, harping on every little deficiency Israel may have, and even worse, making moral equivalence between settlement building and terrorism? In fact, in Seattle, in December, the Seattle Jewish Federation had a beat-back an attempt by the coalition to stop $30 billion to Israel, in other words, cut off financial aid to Israel, from putting inflammatory anti-Israel billboards on buses. This is a challenge every federation in America may shortly face. It's time to recognize this conflict for what it is. A conflict between a small, peace-loving democracy and an enemy which celebrates death and oppression. It's a culture liberals should detest. What's the answer? Chanukah. That's right, Chanukah. Many Jews are ignorant throughout the modern state of Israel's history, but have a relatively decent understanding of Chanukah. They realize Chanukah celebrates a miracle in which a small number of courageous Jews miraculously liberated the land of Israel. In fact, we say on Hanukkah, the many were delivered into the hands of a few, the wicked into the hands of the righteous. Sound like another holiday? It's Yom HaAtzmaut. It's Israel Independence Day. A small group of courageous Jews were able to establish a free Jewish state. The many, the Arab armies, were delivered into the hands of a few, the small Jewish army. The wicked, those who wanted to wipe out the Jews, were defeated by the righteous, those who were courageous enough to establish the third Jewish state. The problem is, we don't recognize Yom HaAtzmaut as a miracle. It's much newer. It doesn't have the aura of ancient history. It's not attested to in the Talmud. But the bottom line is, it's the same miracle and should be celebrated with the same intensity. My friends, I am calling upon you here to help me create a communal Yom HaAtzmaut celebration which recognizes the fact that the state of Israel, the modern state of Israel, is a miracle that we cannot take for granted lest we lose we lose the state of Israel again. We can't allow that to happen. I envision a Yom HaAtzmaut celebration with our friends participating, our friends all the way on the left, all the way to the right, celebrating at the Jewish Community Center together. I ask you now to help me to develop this event.